the bolweg.
How's it, everyone? We are looking at our first face tutorial. So we're just looking at your basic face looking directly at you. And we'll see in later videos that these basic rules, they'll adapt and change depending on different angles of the face. Now, the first thing you want to start with is basically your circle with a cross in it. The vertical line would be running directly through the middle of your forehead to the top of your teeth or your top lip, bottom of the top lip. And then the horizontal line is running from your ear tips through your eyebrows. Now you'll notice in this particular source image that we're using, her head has an ever so slight tilt, and this does actually have quite an impact on small little details throughout this particular drawing. And you see me filling those details, that slight tilt in now with that cross. Now the next thing we're going to focus on is how to measure the bottom of the nose, or where the nose is and where the bottom of the chin is. And you can divide the bottom half of that circle that we have here into 4 quarters. At the bottom of the first quarter being where the line where your eyes are going to start, the bottom of the third quarter being the end of your nose, and of course bottom of the fourth quarter being your top lip, bottom of your top lip or your bottom of your teeth. And what you can actually do is you can take a measurement of your nose and you can bring it down and find the bottom of your chin by measuring 1 full length of your nose. This, of course, you can adjust it a little bit depending on the perspective or the angle of the face, which is I've ever so slightly done that here, but you can always measure 1 full nose length away. Your nose is pretty much halfway between your bottom of your nose, is halfway between your eyebrows and your chin. Now the next thing I'm going to measure up is where to find your eyes. If you draw a slight line along the edge of your nose, you'll find your tear duct, and if you draw that slight vertical line from the edge of your mouth up to just between your iris and your pupil, you'll find just next to the middle of your eye. Now using that, we can also, I'm just sort of drawing a little bit of the nose over there, but we can find where the edges of the eye are. Now you'll always find the eye has got 5 measures across the face. Your eye can copy 5 times, left or right across your face. And you'll have 1 full eye gap between your eye, and then 1 full eye gap along the edge of the head. This is a little bit out because the head's slightly tilted. Now I'm going to be showing you how to draw the eye from the perspective of where the eyeball sits in the skull. And essentially what you want to do with that eyelid is you're going to wrap it around the eyeball, like you've got some material that you're wrapping around it. And that eye socket we're actually going to come back to a little bit later on to show that how it has an impact on the folds of your face, the ever slight sort of those hollow eyes you'd get. Anyways, so now we're focusing on filling in the mouth and all the edges of the jawline, and focusing on the nose a little bit. I'm going to have a separate video that addresses how to draw the nose and your mouth in absolute detail, but this is your basics in relation of your nose and your mouth to the other parts of your face. Now you also can see with my drawing, because it's freehand, I'm coming forwards, backwards, fixing things up a little bit. Just as a slight disclaimer with this drawing, you'll see it more clearly when we get to the end of the drawing, is I've actually drawn the face ever so slightly too wide. As some of you may be picking up that the model I've got has got a slightly longer, narrower face. Unfortunately, we're just going to have to live with that through this video. Now, you also see that I'm going to pay a lot of attention to just building out those subtle lines that would fill in the bone structure. And there's also going to be another slight adjustment I'm going to make, and this is something you should always double check your drawing, is that your eyes, although they're not in the center of that first circle we draw, once you've got that head shape in, your eyes actually slap bang in the middle of your face. And of course it's always important to note that your ears are measured from the bottom of your nose to your eyebrows, and that's going to ever so slightly change depending of course on the angle and the perspective of the face, but we're not going to be too concerned about that now in this video. And now what you see I'm doing in this particular drawing, I'm building up those slight tonal values just to create that 3D effect on the face. We've drawn in the basics of the eyes, we've drawn in the basics of the nose and the lips and the ears, but now we're actually giving a bit of a form to the face. And I would also like to take this opportunity to mention also, when drawing noses, You have two very common mistakes on drawing your nose. One is most people draw the nose too long, and the second thing is people very often tend to draw these sausage type lines that are very clearly running along the edge of the nose. We actually don't have that sausage type effect on our face. And if you want to draw the edge of a nose, you want to look a little bit more into the shading of it. Drawing the nose with those very distinct lines will basically turn into a sausage on your face. And this will, so instead rather focus on capturing where the light is falling across your face and your nose bones. It'll have a lot more convincing look. It'll just look a little bit better. Now you also notice that as I bring in that shading in, remember I mentioned that we need to actually pay quite a close attention to the eye socket. So now you notice that shading that I've done around the eye, especially underneath the eye, is following the shape of the eye socket we drew in earlier. In this case, I am drawing off a model, but if you are drawing faces out of your imagination, these little slight bone structures are going to be very important to acknowledge. Although I would recommend, before you move on to drawing people out of your imagination, strongly focus on drawing real people in front of you. Once you've mastered how to draw a real person, you can start getting onto the slightly more imaginative and character design aspects. Learn the basics and you can apply them and make them much more convincing images at a later point. So now pretty much for the remainder of this drawing, I'm building up the little tonal values and getting into those slight details like the eyelashes, which really, to be honest, the eyelashes and things like such are not that important. But once again, as I mentioned a little earlier in this video, you will see it actually quite clearly now. I've made this individual's face too wide in my drawing when compared to the image. So even when following these particular drawing lines instructions, you've got to keep an eye out for things like this. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed that particular video. Please do leave your comments and questions in the comments below, like and subscribe. And if you have any further questions or future videos that you'd like me to focus on, or any points that I might have missed in this video, please do fill me in the comments. In the meantime, have an epic day.